Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. This is Joel Perez here for your weekly episodic news show. This is Behind the Mic, and it is Behind the Mic, episode number 56. Here we are, Sunday afternoon, right before the Elimination Chamber. Because it is right before the Elimination Chamber, there will be no news on the Elimination Chamber itself. Maybe a little bit of discussion regarding the pay-per-view coming up just later today. But I did have an entire preview and predictions video talking everything regarding the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Of course, on Thursday, uploaded on the channel. So if you did miss that, I want to urge for you guys to make sure to go check that out, because there will be no discussion on the Elimination Chamber in this episode of Behind the Mic. Rather, on WrestleMania 34, the direct pay-per-view that the Elimination Chamber has implications on. So that is that. Because we are so close to the pay-per-view, I don't want to make Behind the Mic outdated right now, so there will be no discussion on the Elimination Chamber, but there will be discussion on the huge news going around this weekend on Roman Reigns possibly being taken out of WrestleMania 34 due to this huge steroid scandal going around. Big news regarding that. It's going to be interesting to see what happens tonight, just tonight, regarding that and how WWE is going to address that situation. That is the big news floating around. We have news on AJ Styles and plans for him after WrestleMania 34, which is big. We have news on part-timers and hard evidence on part-timers driving more and bringing in more audience than current day performers. So that's why WWE utilizes them so much. We have news. We have news on The Undertaker, and if he wrestles at WrestleMania 34, the fact that he might not even be able to use his famous finishing move, the Tombstone Piledriver, can be a huge burden to WWE. For that, we have news on the Raw Gauntlet match, showing huge numbers and huge supports. We're going to be talking about that, as well as Vince McMahon. And this is news that I am not happy about. Vince McMahon has told Jinder Mahal that one day he will be WWE Champion again. Everybody, if you need a pistol loaded in your closet just so you can put it against your head when that inevitable day apparently comes, please make sure to have that ready, because according to this news article, that's going to be the case. Jinder Mahal will become WWE Champion, or champion in the WWE again. We're going to get into the specifics on that. But before we do get into all of that huge news right here on Behind the Mic, I just want to tell you guys to make sure to go check out all the other content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. And the reason I do is because there is so much other content for you to go check out right here on Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. That would include, of course, your Monday Night Raw and Smackdown reviews that you see each and every single week. Monday Night Raw review, we were talking about that very gauntlet match that went 2 hours on Monday Night Raw. And on Smackdown Live, we're going on a huge rant on why Smackdown Live currently is the worst show on television. So there's that right there. We also have news on, or we also had news, or we're talking and ranting before Monday Night Raw on Monday night. We were talking about Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, and why I believe it's a rant video on why Braun Strowman should be the one to win the Elimination Chamber over Roman Reigns. And with the news that has broken about Roman Reigns possibly missing WrestleMania 34 due to the steroid scandal, we might have more evidence and we might have more reason to believe why Braun Strowman would be the one to go over Roman Reigns in that Elimination Chamber. So that's very interesting right there. make sure to go check out that video that I uploaded on Monday. Very relevant stuff right there, as well as to make sure to go check out the preview and predictions, like I mentioned, and to subscribe if you want to await content like you're seeing right here on Behind the Mic, and the Elimination Chamber review and results, which will be up later tonight. So make sure to go check all that good stuff out, because for now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going straight into the news. And we start off here on Behind the Mic episode number 56 with this news story on Roman Reigns and the steroid allegations, which could lead to a major shift in the WrestleMania 34 card. Filmmaker and reporter John Bravo filmed Richard Rodriguez, the former owner of Iron Addicts Gym, from his jail cell in Brooklyn, New York, and is releasing a series of videos to uncover this once top secret information. The reason for these videos, outside of revealing some of the names involved to bring validity to Rodriguez's story, is also to help clear his name and help with a plea deal. Along with WWE superstar Roman Reigns, Rodriguez is also exposing actors such as Josh Duhamel and Mark Wahlberg. The most recent video exposed the phone and message records of Duhamel, and Bravo stated that he is currently getting clearance and documentation in order to reveal this information to the public. Regarding a timeline, Bravo stated that it will be revealed early next week. This video is expected to reveal the phone and message records of Reigns, similar to what happened recently with Duhamel. Reigns has adamantly denied these allegations, as reported by Wrestling Inc. Reigns released a statement. Quote, this is Reigns. This was Reigns a couple months ago at this point. I have never heard of Richard Rodriguez or wellness, fitness, nutrition. I learned from the mistake I made nearly 2 years ago and paid the penalty for it. Since then, I've passed 11 tests as part of WWE's independent drug testing program. At the upcoming Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, Reigns will be joining The Miz, Braun Strowman, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Elias, and John Cena to wrestle for an opportunity against Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, Louisiana. While Reigns versus Lesnar has been the plan since last year, the new information may change the course of the current direction. According to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, they were told when the reporting first started that WWE was not taking the story seriously and there was no consideration to change any plans. However, if there is documentation that will be supposedly revealed with this next video by Bravo, it could significantly create a shift in plans. If this documentation does prove that Reigns was a client of this steroid distribution, he would be subject to a 60-day suspension, since he already has one recorded violation. This would cause Reigns to miss WrestleMania, and he would not be eligible to return until June, which would put a major dent in his Universal Championship plans. That is some crazy, crazy news right there, especially considering what Roman Reigns is going to be doing heading into WrestleMania. It's been known since pretty much after last WrestleMania, WrestleMania 33, pretty much the Monday that was after that WrestleMania 33, you knew it's Reigns versus Lesnar, Universal Championship locked in for WrestleMania 34. And WWE has done nothing to derive you from thinking that it would be anything else but that match. It's always been a lock to be Roman Reigns in the main event, or one of the major spots at WrestleMania, against Brock Lesnar for the 4th year in a row for the Universal Championship. That's what you've been led to believe. And with the Elimination Chamber coming up, with all that we've seen throughout the past year, WWE has pretty much stayed on course. Brock Lesnar, your current Universal Champion, has run through everybody else on the roster. And the only person who he still has yet to run through is Roman Reigns in a singles matchup at WrestleMania. That's the only thing that WWE has set up to make sense. And that creates a huge issue, because if you do not notice, Roman Reigns has been suspended once before. It was like in the summer of 2016 over some medication. It wasn't anything performance enhancing, none of that. He was suspended for some medication that he was taking for some allergies or whatever the hell it was, and it was against the WWE Wellness Program, and he serves his 30 days, and he was back in action. But if this story that we have right here with Roman Reigns being accused by this Rodriguez guy that he was one of his clients and he was taking performance-enhancing drugs, and if this does not lie after the date of whatever it was in 2016 when Reigns did get suspended, if it's like in 2017 that Reigns was still buying from this Rodriguez guy, that could be serious trouble for Roman Reigns. Because if it's before, if the date that they find and they show that Reigns was dealing with this Rodriguez guy, whatever type of evidence they show, whether it's an email from Reigns to Rodriguez, or they have some type of business transaction dialogue, I don't know what it would be, what evidence they would reveal, but I'm believing it has to be dated. And if it is after whatever date it was in 2016 that Roman Reigns did get suspended, then Reigns is going to be in some serious trouble. And it's way more serious trouble than he would be in any other time of the year, because we're going into the biggest pay-per-view of the year. And like it or not, I love to trash on Reigns on this YouTube channel, but WWE needs Reigns as a necessary step at WrestleMania. They do. With where they were going to position him, you like it or not, Reigns was going to play a big position at WrestleMania 34, and this comes at an absolutely terrible time for the WWE. Now, I believe that this information is going to be released sometime next week, so we're going to know pretty much by the time Behind the Mic hits next week if Reigns is suspended or not. If WWE is even going to act on this is a big question, because you have to believe that Vince McMahon is very aware of this. Vince McMahon knows whether or not Reigns did go down with this. We do not know right now, but you have to believe that Vince McMahon has spoken with Roman Reigns, and current day, this Sunday, Vince McMahon knows whether or not Roman Reigns is guilty. Now, Roman Reigns sounds like a huge liar. He sounds like an absolutely huge liar right now, bro, because he denied. He came out and he talked to TMZ or whatever it was, and he absolutely denied working with Rodriguez. That right there is a huge red flag. I believe completely that Reigns did buy and he did deal with Rodriguez in some manner, and this right here, the fact that this is still ongoing, absolutely, positively proves that. So that right there makes Reigns look like a huge liar. Why he would even deny that he ever knew of Rodriguez, and now the fact that it's coming out that he did work with Rodriguez, and Rodriguez has proof whether or not it was an illegal substance or not. The fact that Reigns even denied that is a complete lie in and of itself, and it is a huge red flag for Reigns in and of itself. The only thing WWE has to really get out of this and to make them not look like liars is to position themselves where it was the date that Reigns did deal with Rodriguez was before his suspension, and WWE will say, well, Reigns already served his time for that. But even then, it makes WWE look like liars themselves, because WWE, I'm not sure if they released this or not, but the reason that Reigns got suspended and the medication that Reigns got suspended for was not a performance-enhancing drug. At least I don't believe. And WWE has not released, I'm not sure if they have or not, I think they have not released what Reigns was suspended for. But what was going around the dirt sheets at the time was that Reigns was suspended for like Adderall or something like that, right? And it was against their wellness policy. There, it was not steroids. So if WWE wants to use their little manipulative ways to not suspend Roman Reigns, I'm sure that they can do that. They've kept top stars from being suspended before. You remember the pharmacy scandal in 2007, they kept Randy Orton from being suspended for like the third time or whatever it was. So, I mean, multiple times in the past, WWE has kept their top stars from being suspended, and if you personally ask me, I completely doubt, even if Roman Reigns is proven guilty, I doubt completely that WWE will choose to act on this, because even if Reigns is proven guilty of taking these steroids, taking these performance-enhancing drugs, I mean, I just find it absolutely ridiculous that WWE would go ahead and suspend him. I don't think WWE would do that, even if it was the right thing to do. It would mean PR trouble for them, but I think they'd go ahead and keep Reigns on the roster anyways because of the position that he's in. And it comes off as absolutely ridiculous by the part of Reigns that he would do something like this. Because I understand how it's a very hard life to live. The people, John Bravo in his video, said that it's completely unimaginable. You have to be a complete freak in order to naturally keep the physique that somebody like Reigns have and be living that type of schedule. So maybe Reigns did do that. And that's the reason why, because it's just not natural. You're not going to achieve a body like that with the type of schedule that you have. But the fact that WWE does put all this trust into Roman Reigns, the fact that WWE has put Reigns in this position, and he's pretty much going against all of the push that WWE has given him for the past 4 years by doing that. He really has. He's put WWE in a terrible, terrible position where they had to contemplate suspending their biggest star right now, besides John Cena, the man that they put all their stock into. How many resources have gone into make Roman Reigns the biggest star in the company, when a lot of people argue that Reigns isn't even deserving of that position? And with this coming out, and with this possibly being a problem for Roman Reigns, it only gives the naysayers of Reigns more reason to believe that this guy should not be in the position that he's in, and it really puts WWE in a very, very difficult position with Roman Reigns. I mean, if it were up to me, Reigns would not be in the position that he's in to begin with. I don't think he has the talent. I think there are a lot more guys that can be in the position that Reigns would be and would do a lot better job in the position that Reigns is in. But he's there. You put him there, and WWE has to go through with it. They have to stick with this guy now, even if for the second time he's let them down. And I think that really is a mistake on WWE's behalf, and it just goes further into the fact that Roman Reigns is not ready to be in the position that he's in. He's great at what he does. He's a great wrestler. But when it comes to being the greatest wrestler, Reigns isn't there. You can look at an AJ Styles, you can look at a Cesaro, you can look at a Rollins, you can look at an Ambrose on that roster, and you can say that they are in a better position than Roman Reigns when it comes to the quality of their in-ring work, the microphone skill, the diversity in what they can do in that ring. Yet WWE chooses to put Roman Reigns in this position, and once again, it proves to be biting them in the ass. So it's a question mark right now whether or not Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar is happening at WrestleMania, and that's not because WWE is souring on it, but rather it is because Roman Reigns can be in a serious issue with this steroid scandal if what Rodriguez in this article is saying to Bravo is true. So it's going to be a wait-and-see situation, but Roman Reigns can be in serious trouble heading into WrestleMania. For now, we move on here, and we move on here to the news story on the Gauntlet match being and doing huge numbers for WWE in their Raw ratings. So you look at the numbers for the Gauntlet match, and they did very, very, very well for Monday Night Raw. Much better than WWE did last week under normal circumstances for Monday Night Raw. And this proves one thing, and this is why this is at a higher position on Behind the Mic than many other news stories, because there's one thing I want to highlight about this, and it's that wrestling gets over. And we're going to talk about that. Raw Gauntlet match numbers show popularity with viewers. This past week's episode of WWE Raw featured a match considered a classic so far this year, and its popularity with fans is evident based on the viewer numbers. The latest 3-hour episode of Raw featured 2/3 of the show built around a gauntlet match featuring all 7 men's competitors for Sunday's Elimination Chamber 2018 match. The match featured an impressive performance by Seth Rollins, and it kept fans engaged for the first several hours of the show, which is something that Raw had issues with. The latest numbers were presented in a report from PW Insider as Dave Scurrer notes. The latest show saw a jump in terms of overall viewers from 3.1 million viewers average the week prior to 3.283 average viewers for the Monday night February 19th show. The fact that the match spanned the first several hours also meant fewer viewers stopped watching in the second hour of Raw. It's mentioned that there was only a drop of about 9,000 viewers, which is not bad at all, between the first and second hours. For the show in the prior week, there was a drop-off of about 46,000 viewers from hour 1 to hour 2. That is probably a good indication that fans were invested in the outcome of the latest match, and it was a winning formula for Monday Night Raw. In particular, viewers, including WWE talent, were praising the performance that Seth Rollins put on by lasting in the match for over an hour. Rollins defeated Roman Reigns and John Cena in the first 2 encounters before he was worn down and ultimately eliminated from the gauntlet match by Elias. Elias would go on to get pinned by Finn Balor, who lost to The Miz next. In the end, Braun Strowman stood tall by chasing down the WWE Intercontinental Champion and defeating him as the final competitor. It's likely that the match was used as a way to try to boost fan interest in the upcoming WWE Elimination Chamber 2018 pay-per-view, since many fans feel the matches will be predictable. With the gauntlet match, all 7 competitors for the match were on display in a 2-hour time window, and it left possibilities open that Seth Rollins, Braun Strowman, or any other competitor could win. It will be surprising if WWE goes that long with their men's chamber on Sunday, since it's a 3-hour-long pay-per-view with several other matches, including a women's elimination chamber. That said, it seems fans certainly got a rare treat on this latest installment of Raw, leaving fans to wonder what else WWE can come up with to hold the viewers' interest on future Monday night shows. Here is what I got out of this. What I got out of this is that if you put your guys in there, and with the talented roster that I've gone on a tangent about, I've just gone listing name after name after name of talented SOBs that WWE has on their Monday Night Raw roster, not even to mention SmackDown Live. All the freaking talent that they have: Seth Rollins, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe when he's not injured. But just on Monday night, Braun Strowman, The Miz, Elias, all the women that they have: Sasha Banks, Bayley, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Mickie James, bro. And all of this talent that you have: Cesaro, Sheamus, Apollo Crews. You mean to tell me that you cannot put on a good show week after week after week after week with all the talent that you have on these shows? A Finn Balor? You have a Finn Balor and a Seth Rollins and a Roman Reigns and a John Cena on your show, and you mean to tell me that you can't put on a consistently good show week after week after week? That sounds ridiculous to me, and it comes off as ridiculous to the viewer as well. But on Monday Night Raw, this past Monday, we got a rare occasion of WWE doing things right. And what do I mean by that? They did things very, very right, because what they did on Monday night consisted of wrestling for the first time in God knows how long. WWE on Monday Night Raw is usually more worried about putting on a 20-minute promo segment and a cool backstage segment with terrible acting and robots as goddamn interviewers, bro. That's what WWE is usually doing on Monday Night Raw. This was a break from that overly monotonous formula, and it gave us something new, something to sink our teeth into. Wrestling as a focus on, peculiarly, a wrestling show. Usually the focus is entertainment on Monday Night Raw. They're usually trying to entertain you with all their goofy, terrible writing. That's not entertaining to me. Man, once in a while WWE hits the ball out of the park with the entertainment aspect, like they did with the Braun Strowman Elias segment 2 weeks ago. But most of the time, WWE, with this entertainment aspect of Monday Night Raw, is doing an absolutely god-awful job, as seen by the segment a couple weeks ago between Alexa Bliss and Kurt Angle. Absolutely despicable, god-awful segment. As seen each and every single week where Monday Night Raw starts with Kurt Angle botching his line. Stephanie McMahon, does that ring a bell? I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. This week, we saw something different. We saw wrestling. We saw Seth Rollins go in there and for an hour put on amazing matches with John Cena and Roman Reigns. Absolutely great stuff. Great stuff on Monday Night Raw. And people got invested. People got entertained because WWE doesn't realize that the wrestling tells a better story than what they're doing with all these scripts and all that garbage. The wrestling tells a better story than these scripts and these mountains of dialogue ever could. You were telling that story of Seth Rollins being the underdog. He's somehow going to make it. The week prior, he came out and he stated that he wanted to make Monday Night Raw his show again. He wanted to get back into that division and he wanted to vie for the Universal Championship. Well, he said that last week and he's going to come out this week and prove it. He beat the top dog when everybody thought that he couldn't even get past Roman Reigns. He beat the face of the company when everybody thought after a grueling matchup with Roman Reigns, he could not get past John Cena. He somehow survived. He had to scratch, he had to claw, but he made it there. And he lasted an hour in that ring, something nobody else has ever done on Monday Night Raw. So, I mean, that's a story. That is a story, bro. And people were invested in that. And the numbers showed it, bro. The numbers showed it. Fantastic stuff on Monday Night Raw this past week. Yes, the gauntlet match kind of lagged after Seth Rollins got eliminated, and it wasn't as good, and it became predictable that Braun Strowman was going to win. But it was refreshing to see something else rather than the same cringy Kurt Angle dialogue that we see each and every single week on Monday Night Raw. And what surprised me the most about all of this is that this was an idea from Vince McMahon. Great stuff. Great stuff from Vince McMahon. It shows you that the old man still has some ideas in his pocket. And this was one that just hit the ball out of the park. And it had to do with wrestling. And it goes to show you that if you put on a good match, if you put on some great wrestling, it can get over. It can get over, bro. And WWE, that's why so many people propose that they should do the same thing with the cruiserweights. Let the wrestling get over, not the characters get over. And that's what they failed with for so long on Monday Night Raw with the cruiserweights and on 205 Live. And Triple H, now taking control of that, seems to have turned that boat around. For now, we're going to move on to the next news story. And we move on here to this absolutely appalling news story on Vince McMahon and him telling Jinder Mahal that he will become a champion again. One WWE superstar is set to become a champion again in the future, which may draw a bit of outrage from some of his detractors, aka me. Right now, the WWE Championship belt rests around the waist of the phenomenal AJ Styles, who has held that title since his shocking victory overseas last year. The win came during a Smackdown Live episode across the pawns, with Styles dethroning the modern-day failure Raha for the win. It certainly made fans happy to see Jinder Mahal finally have his reign ended, but now Mahal is saying the boss has let him know that he'll become a champion again in the future. According to pop culture radio personality and WWE show co-host Sam Roberts, recently had Jinder Mahal on his podcast for an interview. During the talk, Mahal spoke about his successful return to the WWE and the push he had as WWE champion. It was a shocking title win that many fans didn't see coming and that many fans wanted to see end sooner than it did. Mahal mentioned that the push was all his own doing in terms of getting there, as he believes he took the opportunity to become successful. I don't believe that, but whatever. The modern-day Maharaja spoke about possibly being in the United States title picture and how he views that. He said, quote, "No, it's not. It's the United States Championship. I'm still on Smackdown, on the live events. I'm still in a main spot. And that's up to me to maintain that level. Maintain that level of performance. And that's 100% up to me. If you see me fall down the card, it's my own fault. If I'm staying at this level, it's because of the hard work I'm doing, and I ultimately will become WWE Champion again. I 100% believe that." It was also revealed during the Sam Roberts podcast interview that Vince McMahon informed Jinder Mahal he'll become champion again. Mahal said even after he lost the WWE title to Styles in the United Kingdom, he still walked backstage and received a big hug from Vince for his performance. All of that sounds like Mr. McMahon is continuing to endorse the former jobber who worked on his image, returned to WWE, and made the most of it. Even the Game, Triple H, who may be taking over for Vince, seems to believe in the talents of Jinder Mahal as seen during their off television matchup. As of right now, it's looking like Mahal will probably be added to the WWE United States Championship match at Fastlane 2018 next month with Bobby Roode and Randy Orton. It's possible they'll continue with that particular trio and maybe a few others into WrestleMania 34 as the US title is contested. As Mahal said, he continues to keep himself relevant by working to improve his craft, which is just what most employers want. It's no surprise that Vince McMahon is in his corner for the future based on his attitude, work ethic, and look. Particularly the look, if you ask me. Anyways, bro, this sounds absolutely preposterous. They did not specify if it was a world championship. If it's the United States Championship, sure, fine. Jinder Mahal, that's the perfect title for Jinder Mahal. Originally, most people propose that the perfect position, if you wanted to push Jinder Mahal, was in the United States Championship picture. That would have made a lot of sense. He's the foreign enemy. It's the United States Championship. What better way to get heat on Jinder Mahal if you really want to utilize him as this top star than to have him win the United States Championship? You can go into feuds with the All-Americans. You could have had Dolph Ziggler versus Jinder Mahal, right? A babyface Dolph Ziggler. You could have brought Bobby Roode in to take the title from him as the All-American babyface. You could have played that up for so many months, bro. It would have been actually something people maybe even wanted to see. Maybe Jinder Mahal could have done some good stuff. But to have him win the WWE Championship and be the main focus of WWE television for months on end, main eventing pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view for months on end, and then WWE wants to wonder why the ticket sales for Smackdown Live were so low to those brand exclusive pay-per-views last year. There's a reason why, because nobody wants to come out and see Jinder Mahal as your WWE champion for months on end. It was a failed experiment. I think WWE needs to realize that, bro. And if you want to have him finally go into the correct position and have him win the United States Championship, that's fine, because it makes sense. He's the foreign enemy. Have him win the United States Championship. He was rushed into that position. He was a bona fide jobber for months on end, losing to every single person on the roster. And you rushed him into the main event slot for the most prestigious title in your company, the WWE Championship. That came across as absolutely ridiculous. Instead of giving him that slow build, have the commentators point out how Jinder Mahal is actually getting some wins under his belt, move him into the United States Championship picture. He wins the United States Championship, acquires massive heel heat, and maybe works his way up to the WWE Championship, and it actually makes sense instead of just rushing him into that slot, creating even more animosity for all his detractors, aka me, and just putting on absolutely god-awful television on Smackdown Live for months on end. At least now, AJ Styles is your WWE Champion, and he's the only thing on Smackdown Live right now that actually resembles actual goddamn reality. But that is besides the point. For now, we move on to the next news story, and it has to do with the very WWE Champion, AJ Styles, and what his plans are after WrestleMania 34, and they are very interesting to say the least. Major plans revealed for AJ Styles after WrestleMania 34. Let's read the article, and I'll give you my opinion on that. Last year, AJ Styles defeated Shane McMahon in the opening match of WrestleMania 33. A lot of fans were unhappy about the phenomenal one being forced into a feud with a non-wrestler and believed he deserved better. If Styles can get through the fatal 5-way match at WWE Fastlane, he'll walk into New Orleans at WrestleMania 34 as the WWE Champion and defend the title in a huge match against Shinsuke Nakamura. The WWE Universe will be a lot happier with AJ Styles' match on the card for the grandest stage of them all this year. However, the expectation is Nakamura will be winning the WWE title because WWE officials are planning something big for the phenomenal one after WrestleMania. According to Cage Side Seats, Styles will be switching brands from Smackdown Live to Monday Night Raw after the grandest stage of them all. It's being rumored that WWE officials have wanted him to move to Raw since last year's WrestleMania. I remember the rumors about that. His move has been a topic of conversation for the WWE Universe ever since, but it seems that he could actually switch brands after dropping the WWE Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura. Styles would be only one of many WWE superstars to make the move, but the belief is that AJ would be featured as a top guy on Raw. After the WWE draft, AJ Styles was pivotal, if I can speak here, that would be amazing, but he was pivotal in re-establishing SmackDown Live as its own brand. He's done 2 years of great work building the brand as a top babyface, but WWE officials feel like it's time for him to have another run on Raw in 2018. It's unclear what Raw's roster will look like after WrestleMania 34, but Styles should have several fresh matchups and feuds to be a part of, and a few new titles to capture this year. For instance, the WWE Universal Championship should remain on Raw, and the WWE Intercontinental title will likely be staying put as well. AJ Styles would have several new opponents to wrestle and could work with Kurt Angle inside the WWE ring. Interesting. For now, the WWE Universe should be ecstatic about the creative plans for the phenomenal one heading into WrestleMania 34, but Styles will have plenty to keep him busy afterward. So there you go with that. I think this is the right time. I mean, it was inevitable for AJ Styles to be moving to Monday Night Raw. WWE has been fiending to have AJ Styles on Raw for so goddamn long now. It's inevitable that he's going to make the move, and I feel like it's time for that. It really is time for that, because one, the current state of SmackDown Live is absolutely abysmal. The reason I was so against that last year is because of the fact that AJ Styles, the rumors were that he was supposed to be moving to Raw during the Superstar Shakeup, which I was absolutely against because AJ Styles was still needed on SmackDown Live before that Superstar Shakeup, bro. SmackDown Live still resembled at least a good show. We were still near enough to SmackDown Live resembling a good show that we still wanted AJ Styles on that brand, solidifying it. And that was also a time where neither brand had John Cena, so AJ Styles was really needed there to carry SmackDown Live. He needed to carry that workload. But with a WWE draft happening, I think it's the perfect time to shake things up. And what better way to shake things up than having AJ Styles on Monday Night Raw and having some fresh breed of talent with him on there. Have a Finn Balor on Monday Night Raw with AJ Styles. Have a Roman Reigns on there with AJ Styles. We could see some great matches. Seth Rollins. I mean, all these guys with AJ Styles on Monday Night Raw, putting on some great matches in the main event scene. I want to see AJ Styles win the Universal Championship and carry it around. I'd love to see that. But as long as AJ Styles is positioned in a prime position on Monday Night Raw, and with the way Raw has been going as of late, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I really, really do think that's exactly what's going to happen. They've been putting guys like Elias in a prime position. You know, what I was really worried about is that if AJ Styles was moved to Monday Night Raw back then or any time throughout this year, he would have been swallowed, bro. Who was your WWE Universal Champion throughout this year? Brock Lesnar. Who were they trying to push throughout this entire year? Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. Where would have AJ Styles fit into that? He'd be an easy fourth or fifth main event guy on Monday Night Raw. And look at the position Finn Balor is in because of that. What I would do is I would have AJ Styles move to Monday Night Raw, move a big fish like Braun Strowman over to SmackDown if you must, move a big fish like Roman Reigns over to SmackDown, but at that point I believe he'd be Universal Champion, so he'd still be on Monday Night Raw. So you move an AJ Styles to Raw, have AJ Styles go against matches against Roman Reigns. I mean, maybe you can form the Bullet Club up again and do a proper feud between the Shield and the Bullet Club. So many things you can do. AJ Styles, I think now is the proper time for him to move to Monday Night Raw. We'll see that amazing matchup between him and Shinsuke at WrestleMania 34 if WWE doesn't pull any crap at the Fastlane pay-per-view, which I believe they won't. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I mean, how could those guys put on anything less than a great matchup? Have Shinsuke win the WWE Championship and go into a new era on SmackDown Live, and move AJ to Monday Night Raw. Have him try to establish himself on Monday Night Raw, the quote-unquote A show. So that's going to be interesting to see in and of itself. AJ Styles rumored to be moving to Monday Night Raw in that big WWE draft after WrestleMania 34. It's going to be interesting to see what results of that. But for now, we move on to the next news story. And we move on here to this news story on part-timers. Statistics showing that part-timers still draw more interest to WWE. One of the biggest debates in professional wrestling today is the fact that part-timers have to come in to boost interest at the current product. Each year at WrestleMania, many names from the past appear on the show to add to the spectacle, although some are used just as supporting cast to the show. Others are used due to the lack of WWE building a star. In a past episode of the WWE Network's Stone Cold podcast hosted by Steve Austin, Vince McMahon had a discussion with Austin about the current talent roster. While he had some positive things to say, one thing he said in particular stuck with both fans and competitors. He explained how popular competitors such as Cesaro have potential but have yet to grab the brass ring. This led to Cesaro even starting a short-lived following called the Brass Ring Club, as a play off the comment Vince made that he just was not over enough to be at the top level. Cesaro would also address this brass ring comment in a 2015 interview with Michael Cole regarding McMahon's comments on him not connecting with the audience, not having verbal skills, and that he lacked charisma. Cesaro had this to say: "Well, to be honest, I was driving to the next town and I was white-knuckling the steering wheel, but then I thought about it. I slept on it, and the next morning I came to Raw, went to Mr. McMahon's office, and walked right in and looked at him in the eye and said, 'Vince, challenge accepted.' In 2 months, 23 days later, me and Tyson Kidd won the WWE Tag Team Championship. To me, that's the best way to go about things." Cesaro joins the list of names such as Sami Zayn, Ty Dillinger, Dolph Ziggler, and Baron Corbin, among others, who are workhorses for WWE, but have a very small chance of main eventing at WrestleMania. Even names such as Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Seth Rollins, who have been world champions in WWE, still are not in the spot where their characters are so over with the crowd that they are automatic bids to main event the biggest show of the year. In contrast, Brock Lesnar, who has been the WWE Universal Champion since WrestleMania 33 by defeating Goldberg, has continued his reign for nearly a year, but has only competed in a total of 5 televised matches, 7 including a couple WWE live event matches in the summer of 2017. These matches include Samoa Joe at Great Balls of Fire, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe in a Fatal 4-Way at SummerSlam, Braun Strowman at No Mercy, AJ Styles at Survivor Series, and Braun Strowman and Kane at the Royal Rumble. According to CBS Sports, these matches for Lesnar have a total combined time of 47 minutes and 35 seconds. While this statistic draws a significant amount of opposing dialogue, Lesnar consistently boosts ratings despite limited appearances in the WWE. Too many fans, the part-timers, are snubbing spots from the current talent. This is why Lesnar does not get the kind of ovation that he previously did, as well as Goldberg getting booed towards the conclusion of his tenure last year. However, based on the ratings, the part-timers are what brings the interest in wrestling. For less than an hour the entire year draws more than competing in over 200 matches a year. And there's a perfect reason to explain this. It all goes back to WWE's booking of their own talent. You look at the way WWE books a Brock Lesnar compared to the way WWE books a Finn Balor, and immediately you will see what the problem is. Brock Lesnar is protected. He is made to look big. He has direction, and they present him as this main event caliber athlete. Meanwhile, they're doing things to Finn Balor that have him looking like a star one night and an absolute loser the next. One night you have this guy coming out and having a phenomenal matchup with AJ Styles, no pun intended there, and the next night you have him losing to Kane in an absolutely abysmal Monday Night Raw matchup. One night you have this guy lasting 57 minutes in a Royal Rumble. The next night you have him losing to John Cena in a non-advertised TV matchup. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous the way they book Finn Balor. You look at a Brock Lesnar. This guy comes out. He is protected. He has beat every single person this year with one F5. He appears on television irregularly. He has Paul Heyman doing his promos. I mean, do you not expect this guy to succeed? And, of course, what he's done in the past in the UFC and everything Brock Lesnar has done, he's a big star. WWE has failed, absolutely failed, to create stars on their current television product. The only 2 men that I can say, or 3 men on WWE's current roster, both Raw and SmackDown, that I can say are stars are 1, Roman Reigns, because of everything WWE has done to put stock into Roman Reigns. They've had everything under the sun go under Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns always goes over. So clearly, Roman Reigns is going to be a star. The second is Braun Strowman. What WWE has done with Braun Strowman, I'll give them credit there. They have made Braun Strowman look like an absolute monster. They have booked this guy as an apex, and that's exactly what he is. You look at the ratings for that Monday Night Raw, the first hour where Braun Strowman was fired, and he was just running around rampant, just killing everybody on Monday Night Raw. That hour of Monday Night Raw did massive ratings, bro. And that was because of Braun Strowman. He drew those people. They've done an absolutely fantastic job. An absolutely fantastic job at building Braun Strowman. And the other SmackDown Live superstar, clearly AJ Styles. And AJ Styles, you can argue, has gotten himself into the position that AJ Styles is in. AJ Styles has gotten to the phenomenal position that he is at, pun intended, because he's that damn good inside the ring, because he is that damn good at what he does. He is the best in the world. If AJ Styles was in any position besides the position that he was in, it would just be absolutely wrong. It'd feel like there's a magnetic shift in the earth, because AJ Styles is not in the position that he is in on WWE's roster, because it's just not possible for AJ Styles to be anywhere less than there. But How about a Cesaro? How about a Kevin Owens? How about a Sami Zayn? How about a Finn Balor? How about a Dolph Ziggler? How about a Baron Corbin? How about a Ty Dillinger? WWE, that's on you. You want to say, oh, it's up to these guys to grab the brass ring, as you see Cesaro holding a brass ring right there. It's up to them to just grab that proverbial brass ring. How are you it's like the Money in the Bank contract, or the contract that Stone Cold was trying to grab in that ladder match in 1999. WWE, every time you try to grab for it, they lift it a little bit higher. Oops, you can't get it. Oops, you can't get it. Because they are never going to allow you to get it. You have news stories coming out on how WWE is trying to silence the 10 chants. Ty Dillinger came up from NXT so over, it wasn't even funny. You had people chanting on the big 4 pay-per-views on random Monday Night Raws. Every time there was a count out, it'd be the referee counting 1, the crowd shouting 10, the referee counts 2, the crowd chants 10, the referee counts 3, the crowd chants 10, bro. Yet WWE doesn't take advantage of that. They don't put Ty Dillinger on television. He's come up from the main roster back in April, I believe, right? It was in April, and he's been on television how many times? This guy came up in April, hasn't even had an official feud. That's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. You look at Rusev Day, so over. Everybody chants Rusev Day, Rusev Day. Yet WWE hasn't put them on Smackdown Live in 2 weeks. They have the perfect opportunity to put them in contention for championship gold at a boring Fastlane pay-per-view. And what do? They put the New Day there instead. Yet they want to tell people that it's up to the superstars to grab the brass ring. I feel like that's absolute bullshit. And the fact that you are still coming up to me with this shit that Brock Lesnar draws more than them. Brock Lesnar doesn't have to draw more than them. He can draw a little bit more than them. He can draw just as much as your current roster. But it's up to you to put your current roster, to put your current guys in positions where they can get over. Because they've had multiple opportunities. They've done multiple things due to their own will that have gotten them over. Yet WWE just rips the carpet from under them and doesn't give them that opportunity. And honestly, I shouldn't be hearing things like this. But for now, we move on to the next and final news story, and that has to do with Undertaker not being able to use the Tombstone Piledriver if he does indeed wrestle at WrestleMania 34. I'm going to read you the article, and then I'm going to give you my quick thoughts on this before we close up behind the mic. There have been countless rumors regarding The Undertaker and return to WWE ever since he supposedly retired after his loss at WrestleMania 33 last year, even though the rumors of him starting a program with John Cena for this year's big event are still circulating. Nothing has come from them yet. If he does make a comeback and have a match at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, his iconic Tombstone Piledriver is something he may not even be able to use. Right now, there's absolutely nothing known or confirmed regarding The Undertaker ever having another match in WWE or any wrestling ring. Wrestling Inc. reported that Michelle McCool recently posted a video of her husband working out and getting in shape, but fans still don't know if it is for a return. Now, if The Undertaker has a match in New Orleans, there is a very good possibility that he would not be able to use the Tombstone. Post Wrestling recently spoke with Roussel Naquin of the Louisiana Boxing and Wrestling Commission, and he had a number of interesting things to say about WWE's big pay-per-view in April. One of the things is that blood will be strictly prohibited from WrestleMania 34 and other events such as NXT TakeOver, but that is not uncommon as WWE banned it a long time ago. The other thing that is banned is a particular move, the pile driver. Naquin stated that blood and pile drivers are prohibited at wrestling events throughout the entire state of Louisiana. The reason for the ban on pile drivers is that there had been an injury to a performer several years ago. Now, Queen didn't give specifics or state exactly when it happened, but nothing more really needed to be said. It's possible, though, that it happened within the last 4 years, as Undertaker did perform a Tombstone Piledriver on Brock Lesnar during their match at WrestleMania 30. Of course, if you go back and look at one of the tombstones, it wasn't very close to connecting with Lesnar's head. WWE banned piledrivers years ago, and it was due to the growing problem with concussions in professional wrestling. A couple of superstars such as The Undertaker and Kane continued to use the tombstone, but they were professional veterans who knew how to do it safely and sparingly. The tombstone is a huge move in the arsenal of The Undertaker, and him not being able to use it at all would be a huge problem. Not all fans are aware of the limitations put on wrestling promotions, and they would certainly wonder why he wasn't using it and trying to defeat his opponent with it. Of course, this could be all for nothing if the rumors aren't true and he doesn't end up coming back to face John Cena. If he does have a match at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, though, it will be interesting to see how WWE gets past the no pile drivers rule. Not having blood in a match is something they've done for a long time, but the loss of the tombstone could have a huge effect on the whole thing. I do not know where this is coming from. I don't know what the reason is, as stated in the article, for Louisiana banning the tombstone, but this is from all events during the WrestleMania 34 weekend, not just WrestleMania 34 or even NXT TakeOver. Any event, any Ring of Honor show, any New Japan show, anything, because WrestleMania is an event at this point. It's a whole citywide thing. It's going to consume the whole city of Louisiana for that weekend, bro. That's what WrestleMania is going to do. The pile drivers are just banned from any wrestling event. That's crazy, bro. I think WWE is going to find some way, because I do firmly believe that Undertaker will be wrestling John Cena at WrestleMania 34. I think WWE is going to negotiate that and say, well, this is The Undertaker, and this is his finishing move, so he's going to use the pile driver. He's going to use the Tombstone Pile Driver. I mean, at this point, I don't even consider the Tombstone Pile Driver a pile driver. When I think of pile driver, I think of absolutely the opposite of what a tombstone is. I think of a pile driver dropping somebody on their head in an opposite position of the tombstone, bro. So I don't know. I think this will prevent the Young Bucks at their Ring of Honor show, whatever it is during WrestleMania weekends, from using the Undertaker, as you see in that picture right there. But I think WWE is going to find a way to let The Undertaker use the Tombstone Pile Driver. I mean, it's The Undertaker. It is his iconic finishing move. When has anybody ever been injured by a tombstone? I don't think that's ever been the case. And for that very reason, I think the tombstone will fly. But as far as seeing pile drivers in WWE, we don't see those anyways. I think the last time we saw a proper pile driver in the WWE was the Money in the Bank matchup, or not the Money in the Bank matchup, the matchup on Raw 25, not Raw 25, Raw 1000, there you go, Raw 1000 between CM Punk and John Cena, right, where he used the pile driver in that matchup. Everybody was shocked that CM Punk was allowed to use the pile driver, or John Cena was allowed to use the pile driver. Well, it happened, and we don't see many of them anyways. It's not going to detract from WrestleMania 34, but if The Undertaker isn't allowed to use his infamous finishing move, that's just going to leave a gap in that whole matchup. I think it will happen. I think Undertaker will use the tombstone, and I do think Undertaker will wrestle at WrestleMania 34, but for now, that's just all speculation, and we move on to the closing segments of Behind the Mic. For now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be all on Behind the Mic, episode number 56. I hope you enjoyed each and every single little thing that you heard on this episode. Make sure, if you enjoyed what you heard here, to like this video. Make sure to tell me what you thought about all these news stories. What do you think about The Undertaker not being able to use a tombstone at WrestleMania, possibly? Make sure to leave your comments on something like that. And of course, if you enjoy all the content, the Raw reviews, the Smackdown reviews, the pay-per-view reviews, the Behind the Mic each and every single week, make sure to subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. And of course, you will get the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view review and results in your subscription box if you do hit that subscribe button. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be all right here on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. So make sure to do all that good stuff, because for now, this has been Joel Perez of Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. And for now, I am out of here. Thank you very, very much for watching this video. I will see you tonight for your Elimination Chamber pay-per-view review and results.